All right. Well, we are all here today, Friday morning, on an exciting sports weekend. I think there's like every day there's big games. I mean, baseball playoffs start basically in earnest start tonight, and I'm just saying that because the Dodgers are playing the Giants tonight. I don't care about Tampa Bay playing the Red Sox last night. And then tomorrow, I think even like Texas, Oklahoma plays tomorrow, and then Sunday, full slate of NFL. So there's lots of sports, lots of exciting stuff. And so we figured this is as good a time as ever for us to do uh, the community call for LeagueDAO #2. And anyone who tuned into the first call we did, you'll notice that there's a lot more people on this call. And that's because we've got a lot of work going on and things have grown and expanded a whole lot in the amount of time that we've had since the last call. And so we've got a lot of stuff to dig into. I don't know if it makes sense to run through who's on the call. Maybe we can just kick things off and people will introduce themselves as we get to the different topics on the call today. But I thought we would start it just in the spirit of fantasy sports to get everyone's just something that isn't as technical as everything else. I have a question for everyone. In one of my leagues, I have to decide if I want to start Michael Pittman of the Colts or Corey Davis of the Jets this week. So I'd like to get everyone on this call's feedback, and then we can dig into the actual technical stuff.
I think I'd go Pittman.
Yeah.
Who's the
Corey
matchup?
Davis Corey Davis, doesn't he have to fly all the way to?
Yeah, Corey Davis has the London game.
I don't really like
against the Falcons.
Ooh,
I
Falcons
don't
are
like to start people when they're doing
Jet
international.
lag.
That's true. That's a theory I didn't even think about, but someone I read yesterday is like the whole theory of don't start players that play Thursday games or like these London games, because the likelihood that they're not going to be in like top form, even if they're really good, is actually really high.
Yeah. And I don't think Corey Davis is top form anyway. So I would go Michael Pittman.
Who's Pittman playing?
That's a good question. I don't remember offhand.
They're playing the Ravens.
Oh yeah, the Ravens.
I would go Corey Davis. Atlanta secondary is not scary, but the Ravens secondary is, what is it, Humphreys against him?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, and he's kind of the only guy. I mean, they definitely each get the most like majority of the targets. So that's like why I have him in my theory. The problem is I don't like either of their quarterbacks, and that's always like, who do I trust less, like Zach Wilson or Carson Wentz with his 2 sprained ankles?
Probably, I don't know, Carson Wentz. I still would go Pittman.
All right. Well, just a little fantasy sports to kick off the call.
Also, when we're talking about sports this weekend, the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fights on.
Oh yeah, a lot of this is like prime sports time of the year. I think we're about to get to that. There's that like 1 week where you have like all major sports happening at the same time after NBA and NHL their season start, and you have baseball playoffs, like just like that one epic super day of sports. We're getting there. It's almost like its own special time of the year. So with
And also is the soccer Nations League also coming to a close. It was semifinals the last couple of days. So we have France versus Spain for a final there. So I can't get much input for the NFL things, but I can do for the soccer, I guess.
That's true. I've been watching the World Cup qualifiers. The U.S. had a qualifier last night, and they beat Jamaica. So there's a lot of good sports going on, which is great. So with that, we'll dig in, pivot to the actual product stuff. So there's a few things we want to get into on this call, mostly updates in terms of the development and status of the projects that we have under LeagueDAO. But the first thing we wanted to get into, and there's some people on this call people watching this or maybe even Discord might not recognize, even from the universe community or farmers communities. But we've partnered with the guys behind a really exciting another fantasy sports platform that presents a unique kind of gameplay called Crypto Fantasy. And we're really stoked to have the team be a part of the LeagueDAO ecosystem. And it adds like a whole other element to what we're doing. They've been building a really exciting product that's really close to being ready to launch. And so all of a sudden we now have, several different products, that are all tied to and under the umbrella of fantasy sports coming out, which is crazy and exciting and just bodes well for like getting LeagueDAO really off the ground, but also long-term. So with that, do you guys, the Crypto Fantasy team, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, and happy to also introduce like how the idea came to be. But my name is Juan. I live in Miami. Don't do anything tech related, but I've been in a fantasy football league with Nate and Chris for the last like several years. And I'll let Nate and Chris and the rest of the team introduce themselves, but go for it, Nate.
Hey, yeah, I'm Nate, and been a developer for the better part of a decade, and mostly focused on front-end work and working with Zernu and Alex for the last decade. And Juan came to us with this loot-inspired fantasy football idea, and it seemed like a perfect opportunity for us to get involved in the crypto space and to really learn about blockchain. And then when Jake and Tyler heard about it, it just made a lot of sense to merge, and rising tide lifts all boats, and we're just really excited to be part of this community.
Well, it's funny because it was the night before our fantasy football draft. We do this in-person auction draft every year, and this time around, like people were flying in from all different, like from different countries, and Chris actually flew in just for 24 hours just to make sure that he was part of this draft. And that night, we go to the Hard Rock casino, and just over dinner, started talking about NFTs and all the exciting stuff happening in the space, and kind of the idea started bubbling up there. Like let's do something. And a few days later, loot drops, and just the simplicity of loot and the idea that you can build on top of it kind of inspired this, like, well, what if you do something very simple, but tie it to fantasy sports? And that was like a couple of days after our draft. The season was about to start, and that's when kind of this whole thing came together. And yeah, it was kind of a great coincidence. That was like the night before our fantasy draft that this idea came together. So I don't know, Chris, if you want to say anything. Looks like you're roaming the halls somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here in Newark, New Jersey, but I'm in Miami and by heart. Partners with these guys for a while. Huge fantasy football fan. I've been playing for 25 years, and also a very big investor in a lot of startups, and mostly around projects and people who are awesome at things. So this has all those things in one, and couldn't be more excited about the things we're about to launch. So thank you guys for making this happen.
I can also just add in real quick from everyone. Sorry, there's background noise. My dogs are going nuts because my handyman got here. But what I got really excited about this was just like the team's like passionate about fantasy sports, and like there's only so many like ways to like bootstrap a DAO and get like passionate people in early. So like the fact that we were originally able to like merge with Nomo and like start pushing everything out, and then like this opportunity, like talent in the space in general is like not growing on trees. So like we definitely jumped on it, but it's been a little bit of a cluster on our end, just because we're getting like the yield farming up and like the DAO and trying to get everything launched. So shout out to the crypto fantasy guys in particular for being patient, because like they actually probably could have launched by now, and we've like delayed some things just for like the good of the DAO and the ecosystem. And then also what I'd say is like it's a completely unique format, similar to like Nomo, and like I love the simplicity of it. And longer term, we're going to be able to merge some of the concepts. So like one of the things we'll talk about on this call is like that we'll be able to add like other sports in, and ultimately just like the composability of the two like concepts is beautiful. And I think like the long term, like it's not just merging like talent into a DAO, it's also just like merging brain power and cool ideas. And like we'll put out an article on exactly like what they created, but I honestly think it's dope as hell, and it's super scalable to other sports and everything else we're doing. So like I'm extremely excited, and as we get everything else up and running, we'll be able to focus on the fantasy side and not just the DAO yield farming token side, which obviously is what all of us got involved in this anyway. So that'll start like, you know, coming together next week, since we can shift focus to the things that we're all passionate about.
Yeah, and I can, Jake, if it's helpful, I can talk a little bit about the NFT and how it works. And,
Yeah.
You know, when you mint crypto fantasy NFT, you'll get a randomized team of, I believe it's 8 players, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex positions, and a tight end. Just think of just like loot, or just like the background text of the player names. I think we're going to have a little over 5,000 teams to mint. You know, it'll just be like your fantasy league. It'll be like you're joining this huge global community of fantasy league. And you'll have your own teams. You can mint as, I think, 20 teams per transaction. The top 5 scorers and the bottom 5 scorers will get a prize. We did the bottom 5 scorers just because it sounded fun. Like we want to make sure that this thing is just, it's a fun experience for everyone, and that you're always rooting for something. You know, so if you get like a team and you got like 3 injured players on it, that actually might be a good thing, because maybe you'll be in the bottom half of the scoring. You know, we were playing around, like, this is an interesting thing about like partnering with LeagueDAO too, like just the idea of like, let's just have the community decide like what other kind of competitions we can do within in the crypto fantasy, not just the top 5 scorers and the bottom 5 scorers, but what if you like drafted Tua and then he's injured, right? And so like everyone who has Tua, like who scored the most points out of that? You know, the DAO can help us decide like what type of prop bets. And, you know, it's such a familiar thing when you're doing you know, fantasy sports, and like in our league, like there's always prop bets going on all the time and all of that. So I think we can have a lot of fun with it, and the idea that you know, we can bring the community in to like make some of those decisions, and like let's just have fun with it, you know, like anyone's like fantasy football league. Let's just have fun with it. But I don't know, Nate, if you want to talk about any of the other components of it, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to mention that you forgot was, so we're taking the mint fees of the actual drop, and that becomes the community pool that we're taking all the prizes out for the winners every week that we score with some backend scripts of all the NFT teams that get minted. And with that, I just want to let Z and Alex give them a quick introduction of themselves.
All right, I can talk before Alex. I'm Zernu. Hey guys, I'm one of our smart contract developers with Alex. I've worked with both Nate and Alex for a long time, known them for a long time. I'm a lifelong developer. They've already introduced everything, but I love what Tyler was saying about how there's like crossovers between our projects. Because I was just like discussing yesterday about how, so we're thinking about having reserve teams that we can like just airdrop as prizes. And I was like, what if we could like airdrop prizes to Nomo token holders, right? Like that would be a cool crossover right there. There's definitely a lot of different ways we could have token holders from both projects, like just, you know, get prizes or something. These are just what I'm thinking.
Nice.
Oh yeah. No, there's so much like synergies between it. And what's also cool is like on the back end, there's a lot of infrastructure stuff too that like both both products can like utilize at the same time. And so like there's efficiencies that we're able to do because your data sources are coming from the same places and things like that. So like, you know, different stuff that we have to have in order for like Noma to work also can be used for crypto fantasy. And like these, you know, if they were separate, then you'd be each having to deal with that on their own. But because they're under this umbrella, like we're able to actually like utilize that stuff for both of them and just save time and money and make each one better.
For
And
sure.
we gotta let Alex go
Yeah.
too, but I can just tack on and say also like with the like universe overlap and then like some of the inter-DAO stuff, like just the general like ecosystem that's like burgeoning around all of this. Like we've even talked about using the polymorph contracts. Well, so two things that like I love about the crypto fantasy just general concept is it's definitely useful for March Madness, which was something that I don't think the Nomo format necessarily fits like quite as well. But like, let's be honest, like we're all just like chicken scratching those brackets anyway. So like being able to generate brackets like the way that they did is honestly amazing. And then I think like this isn't going to be something we launch in like the beginning, but basically having the ability to use like the universe contracts from polymorphs to like, let's say like in the Tua example, you can scramble your whole team or you can just morph Tua on like some type of bonding curve for like competition and then adding in like the forever keeper league aspect of what Nomo's doing. Like those types of things get really, really exciting downstream. And like, they're just examples of things that are easier said than done. Like it takes a sentence to say it, but it takes a longer time to actually code all this stuff. But it's showing in real time, like the merging of brain power. And I mean, obviously we're all like in the middle of the NFL season and trying to move as fast as possible, but it's going to get more streamlined. And like, this is what DAOs are about. But Alex, you can jump in. I kind of interrupted you being able to introduce yourself.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, I'm Alex, based out of Austin. I'm a very long tenured backend developer, architect type, like distributed systems, et cetera, working for more traditional companies. And I guess what kind of brought me to this was Nate usually comes to me with goofy ideas or something and says, let's build this thing and help him out or point him in a different direction. And this one just sounded really interesting, both the idea itself and then kind of the synergy with you guys when Nate came and said, hey, I've got these other people I know doing all this stuff that we could all leverage together and kind of take what I'm used to more working in traditional companies and kind of expand it to like this burgeoning wild west of NFTs and crypto, et cetera. It's just like a really awesome opportunity to kind of explore this new frontier. So super excited about what we're doing.
He's also really excited about March Madness.
Yeah, not much of a football guy, but much more basketball. I'm 6'6". I don't think you can tell from me sitting down, but that much more suits my personality.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I think it's been alluded to, but with this format of crypto fantasy, like we want to expand to other sports. We got the NBA starting up soon, and obviously March Madness in the horizon. But this could be, and then we want to make sure that we're rewarding like early adopters as well. And but yeah, there's just a lot of potential and a lot of synergy between the projects. And yeah, super stoked to be working with you all.
I think if you like look historically, the like NFL is the #1 like area of, at least from like a money perspective, the most people, like the most money that comes into DraftKings and like some of the large fantasy things are NFL. But like I actually think because of just like being in LeagueDAO, like the international community aspect of like how crypto works, there's other like avenues to go after. Like when I told like the Polygon founder Sandeep that we were launching both of these on Polygon, like he wanted to get involved, but also like he's in India, right? So like they have like, I think 25 million cricket fantasy football players. Like it's like the fastest growing one. And then like in our community, way more people are asking about basketball because like they may not watch American football, right? So like I actually think the NBA, where I would have said fantasy football is probably like the move to launch with, and we will because so many people are excited about it. I think moving to basketball and soccer and even hockey and cricket are going to open up the international community. And yeah, like even our copywriter today was like, hey, when can we, like, cause he's writing like the updates from the Genesis, like non-crypto league that all we're using for crypto for that is like the Gnosis wallet. Yeah, he was like, when do I get to start writing about basketball? Right. So like, as soon as we're done kind of doing like that, the let's move fast as we can on football, like basketball season is going to be really, really, really fun.
Tyler, I'm gonna have to learn all the positions in cricket. What is it, like the wicket? I don't know. It's not a goalkeeper. I think it's a wicket keeper or something like that, right?
I honestly have watched cricket because when I worked in software, like SaaS software in a past life, there was a developer that just loved cricket and he was always watching it. So I got him to like teach me how it worked. I've forgotten it all at this point, but I'll watch any sport. Like women's tennis, like I don't care. Like WNBA is dope this year. So I will learn cricket if people start playing fantasy cricket.
Yeah, I think that's like such a commonality between all us. Like, I feel like I'm the same way. It's like, honestly, like one morning I turned on TV and it was like professional rugby in the UK on NBC, and I was like, sure, I'm gonna watch. You know, it's like there's definitely that mindset of like whatever the sport is, like I'll watch it, like, and I'll figure out the rules along the way. But definitely, there's the Amazon series, All or Nothing, and they do a season about the Australian national cricket team, and I actually recommend it because I never knew how cricket worked until I watched that, and it's actually really interesting. But they do the same thing for the New Zealand national rugby team too.
The All Blacks. I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch both of those because I like through crypto, I've met like a lot of people in New Zealand. It's just like they have like good laws, like a lot of like DeFi innovations coming out of Australia. So like it moved over to like New Zealand as well. And yeah, man, when you go to New Zealand, like they're crazy about the All Blacks. Like, and so yeah, I'm excited to learn. I'm gonna watch all those actually. Those Amazon series are dope. They're way better than Hard Knocks, I think.
Hard Knocks has gotten. I don't want to get into it. It used to be so good, and now I can't stand it.
The other thing that's interesting about what we're doing with crypto fantasy is that because the teams are randomly generated, there's no advantage to being the most knowledgeable. Like, it's probably silly that I know 70% of the people's names and where they played college and their 40 times in football. And there's an advantage in a real thing, but in the version we created, that's not an advantage. You know, this is just, hey, let's play fun. Let's have something that I can now root for on Sundays. And it's like everyone's on the same leg. And so if we don't know the rules to cricket, we can still mint a cricket team. And like,
Yeah.
hey, now I can start watching cricket and be like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy the like effect of it. Like I feel like last week there was some game, like a football game, and I was watching it, and really like I had nobody on my team was playing in that game, but it was like the other team, like, or someone else had someone, and so I was rooting for like the defense of this team that I don't care about. Like, and I got really invested in this game, even though I'm like, why? I have no reason to be invested in it, but for whatever reason, I'm like, you guys have to stop this running back. Like, come on. Like,
when this really grows, I think like with all of it, like liquidity is always going to be a thing. Like when we get into like individual games, like daily fantasy sports, but honestly, the crypto fantasy format lends to daily fantasy sports too, because you can, I mean, just the concept of it. I mean, we would have to change things about it, but being able to like mint a team from a particular game, like I don't actually have a team to root for in like the Monday night game because none of my like, you know, Nomo team is essentially playing, or like none of my like what the Genesis League is playing. So I can literally like, we're probably not going to get to this season, but you can mint a team for a particular game too, in the same way that like DraftKings does. And so I mean the fluidity of it is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, one more thing, Jake, is that I love about crypto fantasy, and it's that, you know, I really think it has a lot of potential to bring in new people into the NFT space. You know, the NFT space could be a little overwhelming for a lot of people. Just like, you know, what is this? Got to do a ton of research, join a bunch of Discords, like, and especially if you're new, right? But there's so much familiarity with just like people get fantasy football. They've been playing it. They know it. They've heard of NFTs. They're scared. You know, they might be scared of it. Too much risk involved. But this is just like, get a team, have some fun. It's fantasy football. Root for your team. Root for your players. You know, I think there's a lot of potential there of just like bridging that, you know, real world NFT world.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that too.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a common underlying theme in everything that we're doing with LeagueDAO is like the opportunity for fantasy sports and tokenomics, you know, when you combine them, that being a gateway and an on-ramp for a lot of people into the world of blockchain and crypto, and, you know, understanding even just like opening a wallet, you know, how to like pay for something and buy something and how to then claim something. You know, we think it's something that comes up with Nomo a lot too, is the fact that like the user experience for the Nomo leagues is like you purchase a player token and then you have to stake that token in a league and then you have to claim your reward. And that's the user experience, like the user flow of DeFi. And, you know, it's like how these projects can act as a way to like get people to understand and be comfortable with crypto is like it's not, you know, it's not the reason we're doing this, but it's definitely a really big piece of it, because I think we're all people that believe in this technology and the ecosystem, and like, you know, and have seen a lot of products have trouble, you know, reaching a broader audience, and like, how do we bring more people into the space? Because there's still, you know, such a small fraction of the total population that actually uses like Web3 apps and like, and all that stuff. So that's like a really exciting part of what we're doing.
I saw a guy recently, he said, or I think everyone saw it yesterday, that like long thread from that developer that was like, NFTs are a scam and here's why. And he like made this massive thread about it. And the best response I actually saw was like, having fun is a scam. Here's a thread. It's like, dude, this is fun. Like people who are, the technology's dope, but this technology just makes this fun thing that we all do like more efficient and like easier to measure. That's literally why I originally got involved in this and started doing it. Was I was like, no matter how much I tell myself that I don't have time to play fantasy football this season, I'm going to get sucked into it. I definitely want to like build a lot of these tools that I've wanted to build for a long time, because I know I'm going to be paying attention to it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, let's keep the calm moving, because I know, but this is awesome. So thank you guys for all that and for the intros, and I'm sure the community will have a lot to say about the project, and we'll have a lot more updates coming soon and more details. And of course, all the guys from Crypto Fantasy are in the LeagueDAO Discord, and you know, so we're excited to talk about all this stuff some more. So next thing we wanted to get into on this call, and this is definitely not to be overlooked because it's super important and it's really the like engine and the meat behind the entire DAO, is the actual DAO and yield farming and liquidity pool and liquidity and pool incentives, all that stuff, which is really, you know, we've been jamming and working a lot, working really hard with the team to get all that stuff launched, because we that has to be deployed first before we can actually launch these different leagues in the actual products. So we're getting very close, and I think we can all announce that we're going to be launching a lot of that stuff on Sunday. I think we're kind of making Sunday morning, football morning, kind of like unofficial launch party for these things. But
well, it should launch sooner,
yeah,
like, because people have different definitions of launch. Like, we should let George talk on this mostly, but the interface and the ability to deposit and all of that stuff will launch sometime before then. So
Yeah.
people have a chance to like look into it. We probably need to put like a Medium article together on all of that stuff. And then, yeah, basically like the actual token rewards will go live like on Sunday morning. And then the next Sunday is when they'll actually get their rewards. So like the clock starts Sunday is the easiest way
Yeah.
to put it.
Yeah, that's the good way to put it. So yeah, you can technically like stake into a yield farming pool before Sunday, but the actual like calculation and like yield generation won't start. So with that, I'll hand it over to George from Lime Chain, who can speak about this a lot better than I can.
Yeah, I guess it's appropriate to say hi, like, hey, LeagueDAO folks. I'm a big fantasy sports fan myself. I have to have a disclaimer here that I have not been playing a lot of NFL fantasy, but I have been playing for the past, I don't know, what is it, like almost 10 years, the Fantasy Premier League thing, and I've been doing this for a long time, and with LeagueDAO I'm helping, and I'm super happy to help with the everything around the DAO yield farming, and then of course helping with the products that are coming along. And speaking about the yield farming and the DAO and all of this, you pretty much said it all. Smart contract wise, we are complete. We are very prepared. The first batch of rewards, actually the first epoch that is going to give you rewards in a week time is going to start Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And essentially for the first people that get rewards out of this epoch, this is going to happen on October 17, again, 9 a.m. Sunday Eastern time, and they will be able to actually go ahead and stake them in the DAO. So the DAO rewards are going to start up from the second epoch. So this is again October 17th. Or obviously you can go ahead and supply liquidity for Sushi Pool, which is again going to be one of the I don't know, the richer pools there for the yield farming there. So yeah, the community has different choices of what they can do. And this is just for the rewards, but obviously for all of us to be prepared, we're going to launch the website sometime earlier, not sure exactly when, because we're like tweaking some last things. But apart from this, like you can expect over the weekend to have the sites where you can start staking and start preparing for epoch number 1. Yep. And yeah, all the settings and all the parameters of the DAO can be found in the Medium post for the white paper.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll have some Medium articles come out with more details on just like how the yield farming and liquidity pools work and all of that.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's definitely not to be overlooked, because that's such an important part of this whole project, because this is a DAO first entity. So having the actual DAO and having yield farming and having people, begin to distribute, and people get a hold of the governance token so they can actually participate in the DAO, and we can start to get some proposals going and community getting weighing in. That's all so important to this project, and so this is really exciting to get this finally launched.
One quick question I have, Jake, and I know this is like a community call and this is more of a talking shop call, but so we need to create that Medium article for yield farming, and I think we also need to put together the article for the kind of merger and like introducing crypto fantasies. So should we create like a thread, because we're gonna need to get like Vitalik and Pablo and like the all of them to help, like just setting everything up. So like I don't know if that's already in motion or if we need to create a thread in Slack or something.
It's already in motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
But wait, both of them are?
Yeah, I have to check with Pablo on the image for the Medium article for the yield farming announcement, but we have for the crypto fantasy, we have the the image already ready. I mean, that's what we've been, finalizing those.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're all, it's all plugging away. Awesome. So with the time remaining on the call, wanted to use this, what we have left, to just do basically like a kind of Q&A, and pulled some of the questions that we've seen come up a few times in the Discord. And then going forward, we'll also just be collecting more and kind of create a space for it where people can put their questions in, and that we can funnel and add to the community calls. So that way, there's stuff that we're trying to answer in Discord, but of course, sometimes something will get answered and you might not see it. So we're going to keep doing this a little bit more on the community calls, because I think that's a good way for the community to actually kind of weigh in and to make sure some of these bigger questions get answered. So the first one, the question was, will the project have NFTs or ERC20 tokens? And the answer is both. So we'll have NFTs and an ERC20 token. The ERC20 token is the governance token, which is the league token. And that's what community members can use to actually weigh in on the DAO and to submit proposals and vote on proposals. So that's where, when we talk about yield farming, that's what people are earning, is the LeagueDAO governance token. And that's separate from the Crypto Fantasy team NFTs or the Nomo player NFTs. Those are part of like the products, on these different platforms that are under the LeagueDAO umbrella. So another question was, in the white paper, it says you draft a team and stake them. How do you draft? Is drafting a team minting the NFT, and do you need an entire team, or can you use individual players? So this is a little bit more Nomo focused, but it actually is also touches on Crypto Fantasy. So for both leagues, creating your team or drafting your team is the minting, and purchasing of the token of the NFT. So for Nomo, when you purchase a player token, you're drafting that player, so to speak. Same thing with Crypto Fantasy. When you purchase your NFT, you're drafting your team that's on that NFT. And then with Nomo, you don't need an entire team, and that's what separates it from Crypto Fantasy, where Crypto Fantasy, you have a full team. Nomo, you just need one player token, and you can use that to stake and join the league. You don't have to have, set positions and a full roster. And another question, and I'll let the Crypto Fantasy guys answer this one first, so it's not just me running through stuff and talking. Are the NFTs good for multiple seasons?
Yeah, the way we were thinking about it, and I think we're still, there's options on the table that we're still considering, but I think the prevailing theme that we're going with right now is, if at the beginning of next year's NFL season, when we launch this again for season 2, if you own a team, you're going to be airdropped an additional team for free. And what we're going to do is every year we're just going to double the size of the pool. So if it starts at 5,000 this year, next year it'll be 10,000, so that the pot doesn't shrink down. So there's always going to be the same chances to make the same amount of money. And the value of getting in early is that you have a team for life, and that's why it's not a depreciating value of having a team when it's week 17 or the first week of the playoffs.
Yeah, and for Nomo, the player NFTs actually you can use them for multiple seasons. So that's kind of where we get into that idea of the ultimate keeper league. So while first season there will only be one token for each player, we'll mint a new round for the next season, but the same original player tokens can continue to be used and staked in the league. And then we've got, the last question I have is, will there be other sports after football? And I think the answer to all this is
Yes.
definitely yes. Yeah. We don't have, a firm commitment in terms of exactly which sports. That's part of where, letting the community weigh in. Because of the timing, we're probably going to push some sports pretty quickly before even the DAO is activated. Just because, the fall is just jam packed with sports leagues starting. But, there's a lot of people that weigh in about like Formula One and things like that. And those are all things that would definitely like, within reason, we have to be able to have like a viable data source to about the sport. Like, I don't think professional ultimate frisbee has like a fantasy sports data source we can use, but definitely there will be other sports. I think, and probably will in the coming like weeks, once we get the first leagues up, we'll have more info about like other sports and timing and things like that. We'll be able to kind of get into more details about that. For both.
Also, like even just crypto games, right? Like there's
Yeah.
esports. Like Kieran from Alluvium was like really excited about LeagueDAO. I think like when people are thinking about like some of the, I mean, like So Rare just got all that money from like SoftBank. I think like a difference between us and a project like that are that we are like degens and crypto native, and we're gonna build into like the degen ecosystem. So like, yeah, like imagine for some of the kind of excited degens on like listening to this, if you can think of like Alluvium having fantasy sports built around it from like an esports streaming perspective, like that's one of the areas that this gets like really excited, which is why we didn't just call it like sports DAO or something, right? Like it's just general fantasy league, all the kind of stuff put together. So like and I think the other thing is some of these questions, like, are we playing this sport? Are we playing that sport? Like, do the tokens last for a year? Do they last longer? Like the generalized format, once we get some of this stuff out, is going to be easy to launch like newer versions of it. Now, like you kind of want to focus on some main ones, because if there's, not any like capital or like excitement around one of them, it's similar to DeFi where you've got like a pool with $1,000 in it and like nobody can really do anything with that. But we'll be able, like based on community feedback, to launch features kind of rapidly where we'll be able to test different formats, and that like interoperability and kind of copy paste aspects of open source, they're going to make it extremely useful for us to be like fluid and reactive to what people are asking for, which is why I think that we don't have to get it all right with the original version of Nomo or the original version of Crypto Fantasy. We'll be able to play and play and play and iterate. And I think that it'll be like a journey that becomes more exciting along the way, in the same way as like that. I mean, that's how fantasy football worked, right? Like there were just some dudes and actually one chick that were writing on like a poster board, and somehow they got more friends involved and more friends involved. And now we have all these apps on our phone. And that was like in the 70s. So like this concept of merging like cryptographic technology and Ethereum and tokens and NFTs into fantasy football, like I hope we get it like 100% right the first time, but it's probably going to be a very long journey where we just iteratively make something dope as fuck along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's maybe a good point for us to kind of wrap the call up on, is, a reminder that this is a DAO first entity. It's community driven, and I think we get a lot of people that'll ask, how can I help? How can I help? And it's like, one, anyone can help. Like we're totally open to it. But I think what also, and it'll be easier, I think, once we actually launch these leagues and people can actually go in and see them and get a little bit more clarity in terms of like different features or things like that. But then, that's where for the community come in and be like, hey, I want to do this. Like I want to contribute this thing to this. Like I want to add on it. Like that's where when we talk about how you can help, like that's where it becomes, then it becomes a lot easier for us to be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Like, you want to add this feature to Nomo or to Crypto Fantasy? Like, let's talk about it and how we can make that work.
It's also, it's going to happen when it becomes a DAO, right? Like,
Yeah.
Very soon here, we're releasing the DAO, we're releasing the token, and we'll be releasing the protocols. Like, Crypto Fantasy is a protocol. Like, we call it a product, right? Like, Nomo is a protocol.
Yeah.
So when you have a DAO with a token that the token governs those protocols. One of the reasons we haven't been that, like, what do you call it? Like, interactive and just like raise your hand and like kind of show up with the community has been, I mean, we have, as far as like getting, like merging it with Nomo and then merging it with Crypto Fantasy, but like those are gonna, I had the luxury of, like, I pretty much was the DAO up until this point, and I'm giving it away like as soon as all the tech's done, right? Like, I more mean like in terms of literally all the version of the DAO that is right now, like I'm the only signer on it, and all that gets transferred over like this weekend. So now, like, where people have been asking along the way, like, I'm not going to be able to make that decision ever again to be like, hey, let's merge with Crypto Fantasy, let's merge with Nomo. Those are all going to have to be like DAO driven and community driven decisions, which is going to be the same as once people are actually playing the game, right? Because the DAO is going to be able to change parameters on these games and how they work. So it was, this whole concept started weeks ago. I mean, like, Jake's been building Nomo for months, right? But like the actual format of what LeagueDAO is, like, I think I bought that .com in September. So like, we're talking about like super fast timelines, and we just had to kind of use our like experience of having done this before to get it out as fast as possible. But like, let's assume that like starting Sunday, it's a new era for LeagueDAO, where starting Sunday, like, there's nothing we're going to be able to do to stop decentralization from happening. Like, everything will be in the contracts. It'll all be in time, like kind of time weighted things that will never be able to claw it back out. So yeah, basically people are going to be able to get involved, a lot more involved than they have been, starting next week, and then even more so the week after, and then even more so when we launch the protocols. And maybe the protocols get launched during that 2-week time frame. I don't know. I just don't want to put anybody on blast and promise anything. But that's what we mean by DAO first. Like, it has not really been a DAO up to this point, and it's going to be here in the next couple of days, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there and all equally excited about what happens when we actually put this into the hands of the community. All right. Well, I think that wraps up everything we have for this week's community call. We kept it shorter than last week's, the last one we did, which is great. Are there any, just before we wrap it up, is there anything else anyone on the call wanted to bring up, wanted to add, or we'll just cut it off here?
It's really stoked to be a part of this. Thank you all for the opportunity.
My only question is that a real background?
It is. It's my room.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a real plant. It's not plastic. I have to water it.
Seems
Really
like
cool.
you live in a castle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was
yeah.
gonna say too.
It is a lot like a castle.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll ditto that. I'm super stoked to be building with y'all and to be building with the DAO. And can't wait when we launch the protocols, and can't wait till we want to launch Crypto Fantasy Cricket. I think that's my new my new thing. Let's make it happen.
I'm gonna ditto what Zern and Juan said, and the only addition I want to add is that no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Actually, Nate and I are playing this week on our fantasy league.
Are
Yeah,
you a Buffalo Bills fan?
religiously? Which makes no sense because I've never been there and I was born and raised in Miami. But
Hey, I always have a love for the city of Buffalo for making buffalo wings, so I won't hate on them for. I also am a Bucks fan, And I know we're good now, but holy shit, we've been bad for so long. So I feel bad for teams like that lose 4 Super Bowls in a row. And other than the Eagles,
I had to bring that up, Tyler.
I just think it's like I have nothing but love for fans that are diehard fans for franchises that aren't like historically good. Like I respect Buffalo Bills fans more than Lakers fans. Sorry if someone on this call is a Lakers fan or a Dallas Cowboys fan or a Notre Dame fan or an Alabama fan.
No,
Unless
it's a sad existence for most of my life, but the last few years have been awesome.
Yeah, Josh Allen's good, very good. Stephon Diggs is the
Everything's
truth.
sad.
I mean, I think it's I've of the opinion because like there's sports that like growing up in LA, like we didn't really have a football team, right? Like at least while I was alive in LA, and same thing like even like English Premier League. Like as much as I like soccer, I struggle to pick a team and like stick to a team to like be my team. And I think it's because you need to have like decades of misery to like really be tied to a team. Like you need to just go through disappointment after disappointment. You know, like for me, it's like there's some weird sick like pleasure you get out of just like being able to reminisce on like the Darvish blunder in Game 7 of the World Series. The Dodgers clearly should have won, but then sure enough didn't. And like another year of waiting for that, like to see what happens. And like that's what half of like sports is, just like appreciating your team being terrible.
Yeah.
It makes it so much better when they actually win.
Yep. It's like you like the sun because you've seen nighttime.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think we're good to wrap up this call. And for anyone watching, definitely, if you haven't already, join the get into the Discord and weigh in. You'll get all the updates. Follow LeagueDAO on Twitter. Twitter is just LeagueDAO. And we'll have a lot more coming out over the next couple days and a lot more information. So just keep an eye out for all that.
Bye, everybody.